What is wrong with the Joe Budden podcast? One of the main people to bring that to the forefront is me, Carcino. Who else? So I'm here to tell you what is absolutely wrong with the Joe Budden podcast. And I'll kick it right off. What's wrong with the Joe Budden podcast is simple. It is a very simple process. Joe Budden's podcast is now turned into a BS network. Joe has become boring. He's become too corporate. It's become too clean. It's become too unoriginal. It's just synthetic. When he had Rory and Maul, they had substance. Everybody knew their role. It was a perfect blend. That energy never faded. The dynamic of working together, that never was in question. As far as, does this work? Everyone had a role to play. Everybody played their role to perfection because it fits them, and they made a perfect gel with everyone's energy. The disrespect of other people knowing their entitlement in place, people couldn't keep that stuff in check, and it spilled off into the rest of the episodes and ruined the show and all this other stuff. Now, if we don't get even more into it, let's get more into it. Now, I'm sitting here watching the whole thing play out. And as I'm watching things play out, I'm saying to myself, and I'm answering myself, and I'm going, this show is terrible. This show is nothing like it should be. It's god-awful. Because it actually was. It was terrible to listen to. It was so boring and dry and ice and ash or whatever his name is. Ish, I don't know. They just trash on the mic. And Joe knows it, but he's like, I need these bums to carry my show until I can find some people to get in here and do the show. I said it. Y'all said I was a hater. And I'm like, why would I hate these dudes for? I don't even know these cronies. These are Joe Budden's homeboys. And he paid them the low rate. And now they realize they're getting the low rate. And they're like, well, damn. We're not even getting what the standard person at our role should get. And then Joe's like, well, you guys have no experience doing this job. And you're already starting off at this position. Tell me another person who's done that. Like, you guys got to work up to the salary you're supposed to be getting paid. And Ice is getting tired of it. Joe is like, look, I'll pay 2 more people that I know could bring in numbers. Well, Melissa Ford, they need a female's opinion on a lot of these subjects. So having Melissa Ford there could help with that dynamic. And now you had got Queen's Flip that comes in, and Queen's Flip can come in and do his thing, and he already has his following and his audience. Now, Flip and Joe are going to clash eventually, because this is going to come down to Flip ain't going to be like, I'm not Ice. I'm not icing them. Like, you ain't going to be able to talk to me like that or do that to me. Then the money's going to get funny, and guys going to want they split, and then guys are just going to part ways, and then it's going to be a podcast about that. So, I already know what kind of businessman Joe is, because I've already seen the way he worked. I've seen how unprofessional, sloppy it is. But Joe is the star, and that's it, Now, don't get me wrong, this is Joe's dynamic. Like, nobody fits this more than Joe. Joe is right where he needs to be. Now, here's the bigger problem. How do you contain that ego? Because that ego is what destroys him all the time. Not some of the time, not part of the time, all of the time. So how is he going to keep that in check and still do what it is that he does? That's where we at right now. That's the dynamic. That's the reality. I think the show is doomed by far. I think it's really doomed. I watched them do an episode and I swear it was the most soulless episode. Like they didn't even want to be there. It was so bad. And then they start talking about food, where they ate, how much a Coke costs. How much that Coke costs? I mean, that coat you had on, I was like, damn, this show is trash now. They're talking about stuff they used to clown other people for. That's how you know it's over. You become the thing that you swore you wouldn't be and that you were against. I mean, just think about it. A show like Everyday Struggle never existed for hip hop. It never did. There never was a debate show for hip hop. And Joe Budden was watching Undisputed and saw Skip and Shannon and said, that's what I think we should do. A debate show for hip hop. And who's better than Joe to host it? Then it turned into we're going to have a dance partner for Joe. Because Joe really wasn't into guests. They weren't supposed to do guests. Next thing you know, now they're doing guests and interviewing guests. Something Joe never wanted to do was interview guests. Now, it seems like every week there's a guest. Or somebody's popping into the show. Well, we gotta keep things on even kill, and we all know Rory and Maul's a better fit than anybody they'll have on the show ever. Because one, Maul really knows Joe. So that's a whole different dynamic. He can speak to Joe differently than anyone else can. Because he knows the real Joe. See, what the problem is also is everyone thinks they're super special. And the podcast game got real arrogant. And I would say about 2020. That's when it really started to take off because the pandemic hit and everybody started going home and being in the house. And this went on for a large part. People just think, oh, well, we were down for like a month. No, it was crazy for months. Like even now, it's just starting to really loosen up, but it was like deep into 2021. The movie industry still haven't recovered. And a lot of things are still out of whack because of that. But at-home material grew exponentially. Now, podcasts, more people at home, so they're watching everything on streaming. Streaming became the new era. So there was leaps and bounds in numbers. So Joe Budden's show looked like it was jumping, through the roof. But that was due to the fact that things were closed down. Gotta wear masks. People were fighting contentiously against it. So now you have all these different avenues to travel through. You have all these different outlets to go through. You have all these different just personalities, period, who's jockeying for position of look at me and get attention. So now Joe starts to feel himself and start to think, his it don't stink as he normally does. But with that, at its peak, they looked at it as a hip hop commentary show for this generation that's going on today, keeping them grounded with some things from the past and how it used to go. But now people can't believe what they're listening to now. Like, I know somebody that paid for the Joe Budden podcast, from the Patreon that they got, and said, oh my God, I would have back in the day paid more just for the free stuff they got, because, everyone used to hate Joe. It sounds like now it used to be a place where they used to come and vent and they could talk about things in the industry. Now it seems like everybody there hates being there. And that's not a good show. You had Rory and Maul toward the end. Seemed like they hated being there with Joe. Now you got Ice and Ish or Ash or whatever their names are. They look tight. They look like we doing this because, we get a check and that's it. But I still got to keep my other 9 to 5. This sucks. They don't look happy. And when you got people that don't look happy on this show, you're not going to have a good show. Joe's always whispering and he's saying something out of pocket and everybody would laugh. And then they would start some perspective on detailing something about a joke. But you can't sit more than probably 5-10 minutes of this show without being completely bored. So now that's why you got Melissa Ford and you got Queen's Flip on here. And now it's too many people on the mic. Because it's like, if I got them, why do I need Ice and Ish for? Like, why do I need them? It was like, you guys were fill-ins till I can get some people in here that could actually help me sell the show. Melissa Ford could give us a female's position, but she was on Hollywood Unlocked before she, got in a car accident or whatever happened there happened. But she's been out of the game for a minute, but she at least has some experience in this field. So her dynamic of working with Joe could work. Joe knows the show was bad, and many people have told him the show is bad. So when you see these inflated numbers, most of them is because they're being promoted. They're being pushed. So when the show isn't being pushed anymore, you're seeing things being pushed to the side or moved or slighted. So all of these details mean something. That means something is off, something's not right, and it needs to be corrected. So a correction is what you're seeing right now that's happening with the Joe Budden Network, is what they're calling it instead of the podcast. But there's nothing unique about it, nothing special anymore. And the worst part, instead of acknowledging the criticism of the program, everyone involved just going on to put their head down and just plow through the mud. It's like they have no pride with their audience. They don't have that, we want you to enjoy the program. They just like listen and just adapt. But it's funny, and it's like an oxymoron, that Joe criticizes everyone else's art, but when the quality of his product is subpar, especially in the podcast game, It's probably the worst thing out right now. And that's not me hating on Joe. That's me being 100% honest. It's at the worst I probably have seen it. Rory and Maul is 10 times better than the Joe Budden podcast. And I'm not saying that just to be with Rory and Maul. They actually have a better podcast than the Joe Budden Network, and Joe knows it. He knows it. That's why he's brought in these people, because he knows his show sucks. But rather telling you that, he's just making these changes. People don't make changes to a show unless they know it's a problem. And when you have people that's disgruntled on the show about compensation and money, the same thing your previous host left about, and everybody who's ever worked with Joe talks about, then what is the new situation about? So you're going to bring in new people who you're going to pay money, probably more than me. And I've been on this show holding it down, all these episodes, stopping the bleeding. But, okay, I get it. Well, that's just the new, it's the new era. It's the new way. Everyone's an expert. You know nothing. Okay? That's how they look at it. Now, the way I look at it is there going to be a different situation for a lot of people on that show, as parts will be moved around. Things will be done. Sponsorships, deals in place. It's going to be a lot of changes taking place. So you're going to have to start cracking down on a lot of different things, like elements that are, in development or getting ready to swoop in. It's going to be a lot of changes happening around the globe. So that's how I see the show going. I want to say thank you and shout out to everybody who kept asking me questions. Let's go through some of the Cash App questions right now. Okay, we got, why do Reggie Wright waste time talking about you?
Okay.
When he's supposed to be, I don't know. I couldn't tell you. I could not tell you what happened. All I could tell you is this, right? Reggie Wright mentions me, tells you what? I must matter in some way, right? If I'm a nobody on YouTube who just does everything on YouTube, do this and that, do you see Reggie Wright mentioning anybody else? So he knows I know some things. That's why he mentions me. Now, let's go to the next question. Keith Murray said Puffy took his publisher. Thanks for y'all Cash App. No. No. There's a whole difference in the whole situation. Puffy took his publishing and he wants it back. I have no idea what happened with Keith Murray and Puffy's publishing. I mean, Keith Murray and Puff. That whole publishing thing, don't have any knowledge of it. I'll find out more about it. But that was the first time I heard about that. Uh, what do you think about Keith Murray? And I made a video about that. So I'm sorry, but I've already made a video about Keith Murray and Foxy Brown and all them. So the video's out there. Y'all might not disagree, but I think Jaguar Wright should be on medication because she's all over the place with her story. Yes, and I got your abbreviations because Cash App is short. I was able to piece that together, and yes, I believe she should be on medication too. Uh, I don't know what kind. I'm not a doctor, so for me to prescribe someone a medication, but I know she needs some type of therapy. Something she has not recovered from the trauma of her child losing her son who was grown, and it deeply hurt her. She always constantly mentions it. Other people feel she's putting on a performance and is acting and just doing what she's got to do to get money. What do you think about the other Diddy bodyguard saying Puffy tried to pay him to kill? Okay, you trying to say that this guy who jumped out and said Puffy tried to offer him $30,000 to kill Biggie and all this stuff, right? A random guy that we don't know, and anybody would believe something like that is one. That is the dumbest thing I've ever heard in life. I'm gonna come to a guy myself I don't know and start saying, "Here's 30. I need you to do this." That's just makes no sense. Makes none whatsoever. Mm. Do you think Kawhi Leonard will ever be himself again? It's not just Kawhi Leonard. Kawhi Leonard is probably not going to be the same Kawhi Leonard of 2013, but fundamentally, he is solid. Like, I don't see any lag in his game, really. He don't really explode to the rim, the way he used to. What's the other question y'all got? Why does people tolerate Charleston White? I have no idea. But I don't waste my time worrying about what other people are doing who I have no concern with. Like Charleston White ain't bothering me. I've already spoke on what I felt about what he was doing. No. No, that's not a good one. Let me see. This is pretty interesting, but no. I see Dr. Umar Johnson. Like, I'll see him on a clip. He says something. But if you watch his thing in an entirety, then you'll start to see cracks in the ceiling, or you start to see a performance, more than genius or somebody who's like, wow. If you watch it in clips, you'd be like, man, okay, this brother's on something. Then you watch it entirely and you go, no, I don't agree with that situation whatsoever about Joel Embiid. Joel Embiid is not going to improve any more than what he is. He can only go down. He's not. I mean, what more do you want him to do? He is what he is. Because right now everything is mental. We made a video. We did a live stream of this, man, and I thank you all for these cash apps. For everybody else, it's in the banner. Don't forget the support. And here's the cash app to make me feel good about the loss. Well, everybody act like Dallas won the Super Bowl. Let's see. I'm done. Till Brady get back. When Brady retired, that's when I'm gone. I'm walking away with the league. Whack 100. I did a video on Whack's weird behavior. That was pretty weirdo-ish. I don't know what he was thinking. um, no, not really. No, I haven't heard any new E40 stuff. But thank you, and I think we'll leave it there. We'll say the rest, man, because a lot of this is repeat questions. So we'll just save it there, and we say thank you for listening to the Cash App questions. Tank Davis, I have knocking out Ryan Garcia. That was the last one they had there. Is May still coming out with an album? I don't know. And shouts out to at Kwame Brown Bus Life, at Kwame Brown Bus Life 2.0, One Crack News, Screen Fiend, Our Mind Black, Ticket TV. Welcome to HD, Two Eyes TV, Seahawks, Jose Rodriguez, and I'm out.